Welcome to the Rich Life Masterclass. I'm your host, Marilee Sears, and today I'm really excited to be joined by Jasmine Sandler. Jasmine is a global keynote speaker. She's a trainer, author, and she's a leading expert in social media and branding. Thanks so much for joining me, Jasmine.
Well, thank you, Marilee, for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so am I. I mean, really talking about the power of branding and social media. I'm curious, you've actually been in this for quite some time. So how did you get started doing what you were doing and getting interested in social media and the power of that?
Yeah, so it's funny. So I actually have a corporate background. I started off, well, just quickly get from the past to today. So I actually started off on Madison Avenue. I started with in the traditional advertising agency track. I was always interested in advertising, marketing, and creative. And so anyways, I started there. Fast forward, I got my MBA, and from then I was picked up by IBM. So I worked for IBM for about 7 years in a sales technology leadership role.
Wow.
So I was involved with implementing like wide area networks and using kind of behind the scenes firewall, closed networks and communities behind the firewall way before, social media.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like I was kind of groomed to do this from the beginning. So anyways, at IBM, we like around 2001, with 9/11 and all the things that happened, everything kind of changed. And I had this idea for a social network. This is way back, 2000.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm an idea person, as an entrepreneur. So I had this idea. I understood technology. I understood at that time what it takes to build a community. So I went off and left IBM, took my money and started a social network. 3 years later, I sold that social network. And ever since then, I've been in the space, meaning I've been in the interactive marketing space. So I've worked with agencies full-time as a consultant, as a trainer. Then around 2006, I said, okay, I want to start my own agency and consulting practice. And now it's really kind of very focused in terms of social branding and social selling. So that's like my books and my training and my consulting, although I'm brought in for everything. Like yesterday, I did a 2-day masterclass on digital strategies. But my focus, my passion is more around how you can use social media to develop an individual personal brand as well as a company brand, so you have a voice. So that's a lot of what I really enjoy talking about.
That's fantastic. So like you said, you really span both across like the different platforms, because I know you've been highly recognized for LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, SEO. I mean, really, you have this very broad knowledge. But then also, like you said, you work with large corporations, and you also work with sole entrepreneurs too.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So I guess I could just say it now. Something that I'm planning. I'm just super excited about it. I'm planning a tour. Our first stop is going to be here in New York. We're planning for May. It's a tour. It's going to be a tour really for executives in transition as well as entrepreneurs. So I found in my work that a lot of people at corporate, they're generally senior level people, come to a stage where either they want to go to a VP position or they want to start something on their own. So they usually their path is usually that they start getting involved with boards or communities, right? Running initiatives, doing things like that. So that's the time that I usually start working with them to develop their brand. And then, and it can turn into whatever based on their individual goals. And entrepreneurs, I mean, last year I probably did at least 100 talks. That includes presentations, panels, all to like the entrepreneurial audience around this subject of social branding. So anyway, so I'm planning a tour. First stop is New York.
Awesome.
The whole point is like, how can you build your own powerful brand if you want to either start a business or create a new initiative? And so I'm pulling together now other companies that can support that, like other companies that can run workshops on the tour to support anybody that wants to start a business. So it's really exciting, actually.
That is really, that is very cool. So do you have any idea after New York where the tour might go, or do you just know New York? You said in June?
May, actually.
May, excuse me.
Yeah, because I'm planning on partnering with NYU and Baruch. So we want to offer it for free to students of entrepreneurism. Like that's my goal, to do something to help the community. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Young people involved, and it should be really fun.
Oh my goodness, that's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so fantastic. Well,
So, but just to answer your question, if it is successful, then we're going to branch it out.
oh,
So this is our guinea pig. You know
well,
what I mean?
I'm crossing my fingers that it's very successful, but
Thank
New
you.
York is still a great place to come visit, to go visit. So it's great even if it's in New York only. But
Yeah.
I was going to say, in speaking with entrepreneurs, at what point really should they be looking at branding? Should they be looking at, or even for business owners or those that have a team, is it a certain income level? Is it a certain time in their business? When really should they be looking more closely at their online presence and their branding?
Yeah. Well, I try to convince them to start from the beginning, but unfortunately it does take an investment, and I'm not talking about just hiring me, right? I'm talking about they actually need to invest time, people, resources, money, and it's a commitment.
Yeah.
So whether that means, anything as small as your LinkedIn profile, like that's generally where people come to me is to refresh their LinkedIn profile, build their LinkedIn strategy and all that. But it generally grows from there because it's a process based on progress, right?
Oh.
So what I found is this actually all started because I was doing a lot of strategy work for like smaller companies, like companies under $3 million. And what I found was their lead sales person was the CEO, right?
Oh, got it. Yes.
So they weren't making sales because they weren't visible, and they're the ones that need to build the trust and the authority, right, to drive visibility. So that's where it actually originally started. So for an entrepreneur, if they're going to be the lead spokesperson or salesperson, honestly, they can never start too early. I do a program in schools, like I do this at Wharton and other schools. It's called digitizing your footprint, your career footprint, right? And so it's all about how can you start to kind of create your own journey, you know what I mean, in your career. So I don't think you can start too early at all. Even at least even thinking about it. It's
absolutely.
If you say, hey, you know what, I want to be an entrepreneur, you need to start at least thinking about it.
Yes.
Sure.
Well, what you were saying as these companies grow and, like you said, get to that mark where the CEO is becoming busier, but they need to be that face, they need to be that presence in order to have the authority. In a way, what you're saying is social media almost gives them the opportunity to like clone themselves. Does that make sense? Like be in multiple areas at once.
I'm going to use that.
Okay, absolutely. Feel free.
No, I'll quote you. But yeah, no, honestly, you're right. So I do this. I do a lot of training on social selling for B2B sales, companies and firms, and so what I talk about is, you want to create a digitized brand so that when that person meets you offline, there's no disconnect. It's a genuine, authentic, you know what I'm saying? Yes. Brand built a voice that people, whoever your target audience is, can identify with. So it's really about that. It's really like your digitized self. So people see you online, they automatically make their own perception of who you are.
Yes.
Okay? So they will say like, and it's smart in this world of personal branding and social branding, it's smart for you to take time to really listen to what people are saying about you. That you may subconsciously be putting out there in social media,
Yeah. And so when it comes time to really be looking at that, people that are listening are going, okay, I don't know really what my perception is, or I mean, usually when people come to you, are they in that place of a little bit of confusion of what their strategy is or what their identity should be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I found this a lot with women who are going from corporate to starting their own business, or corporate to I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yes.
And so it's the point where, like, one of my favorite people is Tony Robbins. So anyway, so, he talks a lot about focus, and that's like, I have a book of his that's pretty much at this point, like broken because I ripped it apart, you know what I mean? Since like 10 years ago, because I really believe at the end of the day, the success for a business owner is focus. I mean, that's, so what I do is try to uncover, I do a personal brand assessment. I do strategy for the individual so that they have their own brand. But the whole point is, it's that focus. So I'll look at a LinkedIn profile, and a lot of times their LinkedIn profile might be all over the place.
Yes.
And that might be a good thing in terms of maybe that they have done a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Find that like thread. So where I always start is I work with them to determine their top 3 strengths. And then from there, we start to blow out, everything that we can say about them. And then we rein it back in to create a headline. So it's actually a lot of work. It's like,
I bet.
it's like creating a tagline for a company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's really kind of what it's about. But at the end of the day, the more focused they are and they have like a goal out there that they really want to hit, it's the only way that they can commit to the brand, because the brand requires content. That's what my agency does, right?
Yes.
Content is a lot of work. It's so much time and money, right? So
Yep.
you have to have this focus out there so you can hit that focus.
Oh, okay. Jasmine,
Yeah.
what you're saying right now actually makes so much sense. And it, like you said,
Thanks.
power of focus, right? Of knowing what your strength is so that all of your content can follow that. Because I definitely see it, and I'm going to admit to being guilty of this, of like going broad.
Me too.
Right?
Me too. Oh, I've done it. Me too. Absolutely. I think everybody does it.
Yeah.
If someone says they haven't done it, they're lying, because unless you're a genius and you know where you want to go, I mean, if you really want to do it and you have, entrepreneurs have a lot in common, right?
Yeah.
We have drive, we have like a burning drive and we want to make something happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that burning drive, you'll make mistakes because you have that drive. You know what I mean? Like I always say, if my clients like, stop chasing the shiny objects, right?
Yeah.
Because, should I be on Snapchat? Should I do this? Should I spend all this money on this? Wait a minute. Like, what's your goal? What's your focus? What's your goal? What's your focus? And it always goes back to that. Right. And are they realistic and reasonable as well?
Yes.
That's a big consideration in doing the personal brand assessment.
Yes. Okay. So how can someone know if they have, I mean, more or less, I guess they're asking the question, they probably don't have one, but how can someone know if they have a personal brand? Or if they have a strong personal brand? Maybe that's a better question, is if they have a strong or effective personal brand.
Well, it depends on who they are in terms of, first of all, I look at peers. That's how I know. So if you're corporate, right, you could ask of your team. That's the first place I would actually go. If you're within an organization, I usually have my clients start asking, sitting down with people they know well, like their peers, and ask, hey, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do you think is interesting about me? How am I different? And then I usually have my clients also ask their customers and their own clients, why did you buy from me? That is actually the most important question. Why did you buy from me when you could buy from anybody else? Because everything today is so competitive, right?
Yes.
Everything. That's why the personal brand is so important. Never mind the gig economy, never mind politics. I mean, forget about all that stuff. But just the competition. So I have them ask the people that know them the best. That can be both professional and personal. The people, if you're married or, you know what I mean, your friends.
The people who really know you the best.
Yeah, because a personal brand isn't just professional. It has a lot to do with your personality, right?
Yeah,
so it's your personality. So anytime that you as an entrepreneur have an opportunity to speak to someone else, present, speak, have a conversation, solve a problem, in that someone else is identifying something about you. You know what I mean? And then the step further that I generally take, at least with the clients I work with on the individual level, because they're usually senior level executives or, senior, like entrepreneurs that are going to invest in their brand. It's not cheap. It takes a lot of work and time. So with them, I have them talk to associations that they're involved with. Like I personally am obviously a member and a speaker of multiple associations. I ask my peers in the associations and I validate a lot of times, before I make a mistake. Even myself, I do it. So yeah, I think you might not think you have the people to ask, but you have the people around you. And if you know them well, that's why I say ask your husband, your wife, whatever, because you'll get a real answer.
Yes. Oh, well, and Jasmine, that question, I'm sorry, that is like the $100,000 question of why did you buy from me? I think that's a really powerful question to get the answers of what are the unique features, what is your unique what differentiates you from your peers, what makes you stand out. I think that's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
And how often would you recommend like revisiting branding?
So on the personal brand level, and it's good, that's a great question because you change, quite a bit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I make the analogy to kind of the work that I do as a LinkedIn consultant and LinkedIn marketer. I have this, I have written books, but I have an action plan that I use as a worksheet, as part of my training. And so that action plan that I give to the salespeople says, you know what, you need to check in. You need to check in. Your LinkedIn profile isn't going to look, sound, feel, and say like it did a month ago, 6 months ago. You know what I mean? So I do a monthly, quarterly, annual kind of check-in, and I say the same thing with the personal brand. You're constantly changing. I mean, if I can tell you all the stories of all the people I've worked with, all the people that I want to work with, they change. And that's the thing is that one day, for example, for me, people will say, you're a LinkedIn expert. And I still get a lot of LinkedIn business, right?
Yeah.
But now, so that was last year. This year, I'm getting more calls to do social selling training because I've positioned my brand that way. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So the world is your oyster, you know what I mean? But that's why and you also have to do internal check-ins. Like, do I really love what I'm doing?
Exactly. Yes.
And does it meet my individual value? Is a huge, I think it's an esoteric question, but it supports the personal brand.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
Jasmine, I know you have experience in a number of these networks. I'm curious, what is your favorite? Do you have a favorite right now?
Association?
Well, I'm saying like LinkedIn, social media.
Social network.
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, I'll just put it in categories. So for me, LinkedIn has always kind of been my favorite, specifically for personal branding on the B2B side and B2B networking. Okay, so that's for me extremely important. But then if I think about where I'm going, I spend most of my time now on YouTube and I have in my agency, we do video strategy, video production, video distribution, video management. So video it's like just critical for me this year and for my clients this year. So, utilizing video, not just using YouTube as the base, but tying that into Google Plus, tying it into Twitter. So it's kind of wherever I'm really utilizing video for personal brand development is where I'm currently focused for myself and my clients.
That's pretty beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what are some of the results that you've seen both with personal branding, but then also working with businesses and corporations when they get that branding piece correct? When they get it right and they have that digital footprint, what are some of the results that they've been able to achieve?
Well, I'm pretty excited. I'm going to mention a few of my clients.
Awesome.
Yeah. So one who's now a good friend of mine, he runs a financial advisory services firm out in St. Louis. Okay. And I'm going to actually meet him for the first time in February. So it's pretty exciting.
Great.
So anyway, so he runs one of my favorite groups on LinkedIn. I play hockey. It's a long story.
You play hockey. You are the first female I've met that plays hockey. My husband plays hockey, but
He does?
Yes. I mean,
awesome.
Just fun.
Good for him.
Not professionally or anything.
Well, me neither.
Okay.
That's awesome. So I play hockey. It's a big passion of mine.
Yes.
He runs a group on LinkedIn. It's called the Hockey Players Doing Business Group. So I'll send you the link for your husband.
You have to be tough to be in that group, right?
Yeah, that's true. In general, you got to be cool to be in that group.
Okay, I'll talk to my husband. Hopefully he qualifies. I hope, I'm kidding. He's fantastic.
No, it's a really fun group. So anyway, so he runs that group. So I'm very obviously vocal in that group, and I've gotten to know him. Anyway, so he's gotten to know me. So he hired me. Finally, I kept bugging him. I kept saying, listen, his name is Shannon. Shannon, you got to let me do your LinkedIn profile. You got to let me do your LinkedIn profile. Because you're a challenge, because you're in financial services, and financial services people are so regulated. It's usually hard to help them stand out. Yes. And I love a challenge. So I told him, I want you to be my client. So finally he hired me. And I'm not kidding, within 2 weeks of my work. And really what I call it with my clients, I say all I'm really doing is shining up a diamond because they're already so talented. Like I really feel like, honestly, I'm like, I'm not doing anything because I feel that they're so talented. I'm just representing them, So within 2 weeks, there was a client he was chasing for a long time. And the client came to him and said, I saw your post on LinkedIn and your video because I was involved with that.
Yes.
I'm ready to buy. I was like, so he called me, congratulated me, so, I mean, I'm telling you, all I had to do was shine up his brand and kind of get him out there because he's active. He's proactive.
Yes. Yes.
Anyways, one example.
That is amazing.
Tons of examples of individuals who I've worked with to build a personal brands that have done everything from, like, I had a client who, he has a small IT consulting firm here in New York. They do Mac consulting. So anyway, so he, they were primarily like an IT solutions company, but they really didn't have a powerful brand.
Okay.
So what I did is I worked with the company to build their digital strategy, their website strategy, because I do everything, So anyways, whatever. But primarily I said, look, you're an extremely brilliant person. He used to work at Apple, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, why aren't you built as a brand? He was actually one of my first personal branding clients. This was in 2007.
Oh my
One of my first clients. His name is Ivan Drucker. He's an awesome guy.
Awesome.
So basically I said, you're brilliant. And he's also a great writer. So what I did is I said, okay, why don't you start writing these pieces? We'll build a blog. This is way, way back, like 10 years ago, right?
Yes.
So, and this was like the infancy of this stuff. So we built I helped him build a blog. We did search engine optimization on site. So I got some visibility. And then I started reaching out to like PC Weekly and obviously industry publications and their online versions. I ended up helping him to get a role as a contributing writer at E-Weekly. It's part of Ziff Davis, where he's reaching and engaging CIOs.
Oh,
There, he just took off. His business completely has taken off.
absolutely.
Now I don't do media training, but I have people that I work with to do media training for my clients. So he started working with those people. Now the guy is on like CNBC and NBC and
amazing.
but it's all because all I did again is like I looked at him and I analyzed and I said, okay, here's who you need to go after. This is what you need to build. Maybe I'll help you edit it. I'll be your coach. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Just kind of got him out there. So that's and I could give you so many stories on the individual.
That's fantastic.
That's individual.
Fantastic.
So it can help I think it can help anybody. Right now I have a filmmaker I'm working with. It can help.
Really?
Yeah, because he wants to get funding for the film.
Yes. Okay. So with the filmmaker, I'm just curious. Is this something where you're working with LinkedIn first and YouTube, or what are you guys doing? What are you doing with the filmmaker?
No, actually, we're doing a couple things. So first of all, I'm working with him to build a Kickstarter strategy. That's the very first thing with him.
That's awesome.
And then right now I'm just starting to build his Facebook brand. I mean, literally just starting. And then I'm asking him to give me the keys to Instagram. So for him, it's going to be a lot of Instagram. We're going to do paid advertising on Instagram and tie that into Facebook, because my agency, we do social advertising, right? And it's very low cost. So somebody that's a creative professional, we usually start with like very low budgets. You know what I mean? So they can actually make something happen and grow a following, because that's a place he's in. He needs to build a following.
Absolutely. So like you said, there really is no such thing as too early.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think from what you're saying, I completely agree. That's really amazing. Jasmine, the thing that I really find so amazing about you is, like you said, you are not just pigeonholed into one area. Like it's incredible your knowledge and your experience with all of these different things. Because I mean, I'm sorry, there's something new. It seems like every other week when it comes to
with social media. Every second.
Yeah. Exactly. Sorry, I'm understating it. You're right. You're like you. No wonder why you never get sleep.
It's crazy. Well, you asked me about my favorite social network, and I say LinkedIn. Why? Because that's the one I really said, okay, I'm going to kind of own this space. I'm going to write books on it. You know what I mean? And it's changed all the time. And I was doing a training yesterday, and I kind of said, you know what? They started asking all these questions about tools, because inevitably in my training, I have to understand all the CRM tools, So we talked about tools, but at the end of the day, it's like the tool is important, but how you approach that tool is more important. You know what I mean? So I'm never going to know. There's no way that one person, I don't care who they are, is going to be the expert in everything. It's just, honestly, it's impossible.
Yes.
It's just, you can't, unless you are a journalist and you're paid and all you're doing is covering the beat. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And I contribute to a lot of magazines, but I don't get paid, so I can't focus there.
Yes.
Even so it's more about how can I use and leverage this? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's more important.
Definitely. Okay. I'm curious for those that, like, say, for example, maybe they don't have their own business or they're more starting out, but say, for example, they have a book. Like do you work with authors? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And generally, are you looking at a LinkedIn strategy there? Or just depends on the focus?
Well, it's funny because I did last year, 2 years ago, I don't remember. I did a speech for the ASJA, the American Society of Journalists, and I might do one again. I'm waiting to find out because this one will be paid. That one I just did as a freebie.
Wow.
So for them, the presentation was a lot for them about Google Plus, SEO. So they need to know that. But there are, for authors, I'm just going to kind of give you a paintbrush stroke of what I've done with authors.
Yes.
It's really to help them from the beginning, because I'm an author myself. I'll never write a big book. I kind of have ADD. Everything is like fast. I just don't have that patience.
Yes.
God bless the people that do. I just don't. I just like throw it out on paper, do it fast, and move on to the next.
But you get it done. You get it done.
Yeah. But all my books are 100 pages long. They're considered ebooks, really. But I'm like, it's a manual, you know.
Yes.
It's active or active rather. Anyway, so for them, you know, it is really about taking like the content as they're creating it as individual stories and individual pieces of content that they can use to leak out and get people interested in the next thing. So it's kind of like that Kickstarter program, or I work with artists as well. So it's like, what's this series that we're building? So it's not necessarily what network are we using. It's more about creating the brand and using their content to position them and start to build an audience. It's generally like around a hero or a subject or a theme. You know, it's something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would say for authors, they should the place where I get involved as an author, and I honestly wish I had more time to do it, is in the author page and the author community within Amazon. That's really useful. And then on Goodreads. Goodreads is, you know, where authors, they really, really do support each other.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned the ASJA. So I tend to, like with authors, make sure they're in the right communities and groups. LinkedIn has groups with authors and artists that work together. So I was on a podcast, a guy that covers, because I have a client in comic books. So anyway, he covers like what goes on in comic books. And so his group, I did a podcast on personal branding for artists, but a lot of what I said there was, it could be useful for authors as well, because they tend to work together.
Yes.
And they should collaborate together. So I tend to help them to understand that they need to be in the world of creative professionals, of which there's so many groups online.
Yeah.
To Google Plus, to LinkedIn, you know, so
many places they can go.
But the thing is, with any creative professional, they actually have the best opportunity to build a personal brand, because they're the ones that are creating the content as part of their life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's actually much easier to work with them. The problem that I have is they usually don't have the money to work with me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so this film director, we're doing like something, because I really believe in him. We're doing something that's a little bit lower than I would usually charge. You know what I mean? So
goodness. Well, I was going to say, how big is your company? How many people do you have working with you? Because you can only do so much.
Yeah. So what I focus on is the consulting, right? So delivering the consulting and strategy, delivering the training, and then all of that managed services stuff, like the writing, the video production, the editing, the graphic design, this tour. And anytime I do events, I have 2 girls that come in and help me with that. So I don't have full-time. I have people that work on projects. So I have about 5 to 7 people.
Okay, Jasmine, you blow me away. What you are capable of doing. It's incredible. That is seriously incredible.
Thank you.
I'm blown away. So, and you have an amazing, like, awesome gift that you are offering the listeners of the Rich Life Masterclass, which is the Intro to Social Branding. So do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I spent a year. I'm going to start with that.
Are you kidding?
I got to tell you, anybody that's on this that wants to create a course, Get the first one done. It takes a lot of work. Like I'm talking about an online course. Offline, I do training all the time, but an online course is hard. So I created this course. It took me a year to put it together. I mean, because I'm doing other things.
Yes.
But so this course, I said, so as I mentioned, this was actually, I did this because I thought, well, these creative professionals, they can't start working with me. Like usually my social branding clients, they have to have at least $5,000 to start to invest. Like,
yes,
that's kind of like the minimum bar, unless it's a consulting call for $100, whatever it is. But if they really want to build a brand, and the creative professionals, they don't have that. They don't even have $500 usually to start.
Yeah.
Because they don't get it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create an online do-it-yourself, completely comprehensive course for developing your personal brand and using social media, right? Like so at least you can get through a personal brand assessment. At least you can understand the tools. At least you can get a Wix website up. You know what I'm saying? Like a page up, like get somewhere. So that's what this course is about. It's
awesome.
Yeah, so it's a 4-module course. So there's 4 modules, and within each module, like I said, I took a lot of time on it because each module has worksheets. So instead of me actually being there, it's like they're actually going through all the worksheets, and then there's quizzes, right, in each module and there's certification at the end. So anyways, so as part of this, I'm giving away the first module of the course.
Awesome.
And then there's a major discount on it. So it's very affordable. I'll just put it that way.
Okay, fantastic. And like you said, your blood, sweat, and tears went into this for a year. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. For those that are listening, that, like I said, whether they're business owners with the team or they're just sole entrepreneurs, and they know that they need to start focusing on that social brand or that, that digital strategy, having that footprint, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, so I was going to say, first of all, if there's anyone in New York, and they're interested in coming to this event, I'm going to be launching a whole series of emails and things on this event, but I'd love for them to come. So that's first of all.
Yes.
And if they contact me, I'll just bring them in. They don't have to pay. You know what I mean? If it's
and this is for the event in May.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This is for the event in May. I would love to just meet the people that you're talking to,
Yes.
So anyway, so on my website, JasmineSandler.com, I have everything. I offer, if anybody really is serious and they need help with like SEO or social media, I do a 10-minute needs assessment. It's free. If anybody wants to book any paid consulting with me, like tomorrow I'm talking to a guy he just can't get to the next level on LinkedIn, but he doesn't necessarily want to pay me as an ongoing coach. So I've set up phone call stuff where basically for anything. So I'm having a problem, send me your questions, beforehand. I go through the questions. I give you a kind of like a doctor. I give you the recommendations, you go execute them, and then I follow up. So I have phone consulting available. I do training for groups, definitely. If anybody's part of corporate. So it's all available on the website.
Awesome. Jasmine, you're exceptional. Thank you. I just have to say this to those that are listening. Jasmine's like between trainings. She did a 2-day training, and then right after this, she's getting ready for another training that's taking place tomorrow. So she is a woman in demand, but I just love the value that you're adding to those that are trying to get their work, like you said, the creatives, as well as all the other business owners that are trying to get their work out in the world. So thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome. This was very fun. Anytime,
I'll take you up on that. And like I said, hey, if I can get to New York in May, you very likely are going to see me. I'll let you know because I would love to be there.
Well, you can bring your husband and he can come play at City Ice. That's where I play. That would be fun. Tell him to bring his gear.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Jasmine.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.